Hey everybody, my name is Ivica. Thank you so much for joining me on the latest episode of I Am Gaming Podcast. This is a podcast about the video game industry, entrepreneurship, gaming nostalgia, narrative consistencies, and many other things I find to be in the same realm of business and creative ventures. Like always, first and foremost, a huge thanks goes to my Patreon supporters who really and truly make this podcast possible. Without your generous and continuous monthly donations, I would not be able to continue making these episodes, so thank you all so very much. Everyone else, please check out my Patreon supporters in the links below. And of course, if you'd like to join my Patreon, please check out the page as well. Now, this is episode 262, and it's all about the latest Gothic movie that really made it big, which is Nosferatu by Robert Eggers, who decided to make a remake of the famous film from 1922, which is Nosferatu, a symphony of horror, which itself was an unauthorized adaptation of the famous novel from Bram Stoker, Dracula. It's an interesting tale. There we had a lot of luck as humanity to keep Nosferatu, the movie from 1922, which was deemed to be in copyright breach and should have been destroyed completely, but few of those copies survived, allowing us to have that seminal work of horror that then allowed Nosferatu to happen, a 2024 film, which is truly incredible in my view. Some amazing performances, great direction, great photography, scenography, an amazing ability to kind of keep the thread of the film alive. But what is the most impressive, which is also the kind of main topic of this podcast episode, is its consistency to its Gothic narrative. And this is something that people will and continue to find kind of weird, especially towards the end of the film, which provides a completely different resolution than the original, let's say the adaptation of the Dracula film with Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder from the 90s, is the fact that it kind of stays very consistent with its Gothic concepts and its narrative, even in the moments, I don't want to spoil anything, and moments where it's kind of downturning for the audience that is coming to the film with a certain level of expectation from, let's say, general modern narrative approaches. This is doing kind of a 180 on those concepts and provides something that is incredibly consistent with the concepts of the Gothic romantic principles that are sometimes tragic and sometimes do not resolve situations like we would want them to do in this kind of modern setting of the main character wins all or overcomes all or does everything. Instead, Nosferatu does a kind of a different spin on that, especially as the movie progresses and takes steam, let's call it like that, as it kind of becomes more and more intense. It also keeps that consistency going, even though kind of a rule of thumb of modern filmmaking, of modern narrative design, would be to kind of skew it towards something that is more pliable for the modern audience. Eggers does not do any of that. Instead, he remains true to the principles, and that is a really good decision in my view, even though, like I said, many viewers will dislike it ultimately and not find it interesting or appealing in some kind of emotional setup. Still, it's a very smart move, and it's a very actually bold move to do that, knowing that for us now, the general movie going public, those decisions will seem odd and kind of disjointed from those ideas that our main character or main characters have all the agency, have all the possibility, power and willingness to kind of do stuff as we expect them to do. Basically in the most common sense of good versus evil, where good actually wins. Now again, I don't want to spoil anything. In this case that does happen in a way, but the means towards that resolution is unexpected and different, and that is something that really works really well in the film, even though ultimately, and that is kind of a mark of great art in my view, it is something that is unpleasant, let's call it like that, or unnerving or weird. Nosferatu has all of those, but still it's so consistent with the themes of Gothic fiction, of Gothic horror, which we honestly lost in many ways in terms of their original concepts. Just like, for example, our fairy tales, like mid-millennia fairy tales, like from the Middle Ages and stuff, are also lost in those kind of points they were trying to make because they're simply too morbid or too depressing for our concept of artistic pleasure from the reader or consumer of some kind of art. We kind of molded them down. The same happened to Gothic notions, which are much younger. They're around, 200 years old or something like that, 200, 300 years. But still, a lot of those elements are still there, of course, in the original fiction, but few of us read it or enjoy it in any shape or form. But when they are adapted, they are kind of compensated for that element in a very substantial manner that dilutes the basic idea. Nosferatu doesn't do that. It doesn't dilute the idea at all. It focuses and actually double downs on it. And that is not just brave, but it's a precursor to great art, and I'm pretty certain that Nosferatu will survive for ages and be a film that many will enjoy, even though it has some, objectively for our sensibility, unenjoyable elements towards the end. So great work of art. Hopefully you get a chance to watch it, Nosferatu from 2024. If you did watch it, I would love to hear what you thought about it. And that's basically the end of this episode. It's a narrative driven episode, let's call it like that. Hopefully you get a chance, if you didn't watch it already, to watch it. And thanks a lot for listening to this podcast. I would want to say watched it, but there's not much to watch. It's just my voice. Thanks for being here. Thanks for checking out. All of my links in the description below. They will take you just to the Patreon page. You can also check out my books on Amazon, including my best-selling book, which is How to Overcome Procrastination. And of course, please check out my Patreon page. Like I said, if you can become a Patreon supporter, that would be amazing. That's all for me. This was episode 262. Thanks for being here. Have a great week. Have a great day. Have a great hour. And I'll talk to you in precisely 7 minutes from now. Until then, bye-bye.